Tony Robbins is sought out as a peak performance consultant and turnaround expert. He has met with world leaders like Nelson Mandela and consulted with Mikhail Gorbachev. He has counseled U.S. President Clinton and Princess Diana. Tony Robbins provides the competitive edge in sports. He strategized with America Cubed, which brought home the America's Cup. He helped the LA Kings reach the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 17 years. Then, when Andre Agassi was ranked 30th, he asked Tony Robbins to help improve his mental focus. Within 6 months, Agassi won the U.S. Open and became the #1 player in the world. Tony Robbins has worked with people from every walk of life, from the most challenged to the most successful. From people like Quincy Jones, Pamela Lee, Bill Farley, and executives from Fortune 500 companies. From the very famous to the very special. Now, Tony Robbins can be your personal coach with his 30-day personal power system. Learn how to master your emotions.
I'm happier today than I've ever been before in my life.
Your physical health.
I've maintained a 78-pound weight loss for 2 years.
Your relationships.
I'm so much in love.
Your finances.
From 0 in sales to $7 million in revenue.
And balance your life.
He's saying, here's the door, here's the key, go for it.
Personal Power is the #1 best-selling personal achievement system of all time, with over 25 million educational cassettes sold. Coming up, we'll travel to the big island of Hawaii, where each year more than 1,000 people from 42 nations attend his most exclusive event, Mastery University, to learn a tool you can use to immediately improve any area of your life. Welcome to Anthony Robbins' Life Management Systems. Now let's join Tony at his beautiful island resort in Fiji.
Hi, I'm Tony Robbins, and welcome to our Fijian island resort, Namale. It's a paradise here, and we're about to go on a journey together that'll include some time here in Fiji, some time in Hawaii at my Mastery University, and maybe a couple other places where I can share with you just a couple of tools that can help you increase the quality of your life. In just 45 minutes, we can't obviously give you a whole seminar because one little section is 3 or 4 hours, but I want to give you a little appetizer or two of some tools that can help you to, one, increase the quality of your communication. Because my personal belief is it doesn't matter what your goals are, your desires, ultimately your ability to achieve them and to be happy and to be fulfilled comes down to communication. And we all communicate well when we're in an unstressed state. But when we get stressed, we start developing patterns that stop us. So I want to make sure that in order to have that quality of life where you can really manage your life effectively, you learn just a couple of tools in that area. Secondly, if we're going to manage our life and really learn life management systems, we have to know our priorities. So we're going to do a little goal setting workshop. And you may have done a part of that if you've already gone through the audio tapes of Personal Power, which I hope you've done, because that's ideal to go through before you go through this videotape. But if you haven't, you can do it here with me on the videotape together. And I can tell you that this little process is something that's totally changed my life and an amazing number of other people. In fact, sometimes when you begin a process, you wonder, oh, is this really going to make any difference? You know, it seems so simple. But I can tell you that simple things, little things, aren't little at all if they are significant, if they're things that can shape our lives, if they can change the way we think, the way we believe, the way we act, and therefore what we experience in our lives. And that's what we're going to share with you on this tape. So again, you'll get a little peek of many different things, but I hope you'll take the time to not only watch passively, but to actively do some of the exercises. Because I can make a tape that this looks really fine, but instead I want to do something that you actually do. It's kind of like a live video workbook. So don't sit passively, do something, follow through, and I can promise you some amazing results, especially if you've really gone through Personal Power now for the 30 days. I can give you an idea. In the last week, I get to hear stories every day from people that have used Personal Power and made huge changes, or use portions of it even. In the last week, I had the privilege of visiting with a man who I met about a year ago, right after the President's State of the Union address. I kind of stayed in the background till a little after midnight, and I decided to walk up the steps of the Capitol and stand there where the President is inaugurated and just see what it felt like up there for the person who was really making a difference in our country. And in the middle of the night, I see this man running up these stairs saying, "Are you Anthony Robbins?" And I said, "Yes." And he reached up and he grabbed my hand and he shook it. And he said, "My name is Bobby Rush." He said, "You know something? I'm a congressman today because of you." I said, you're kidding. And he said, no. And he shared with me how he went through personal power and he changed some of his most limiting beliefs. And he said at the time, he said he knew it was valuable, but he had no idea the cumulative effect that it was going to happen for him, that he started developing a new momentum. He set some brand new goals. He made some tough decisions. He broke through what would stop him, and now he's doing something that he really loves. And by the way, he said, by the way, I was an ex-Black Panther. Talk about a little change. Simultaneously this last week, I had the privilege of spending some time that reminded me of my goal-setting workshop. This workshop you're going through, I did for myself for the first time years ago in Russia, back in 1982. And a couple days ago, I got a chance to see how the world has changed by visiting with the president of the past Soviet Union, Mr. Gorbachev, and flying with him on my private plane for 4 hours. Talk about chills, thinking about what can happen by using these tools. And we started talking about what changed the world. And the interesting thing that he shared with me is he said the breakthrough, what took us from a place where we had 70,000 nuclear missiles pointing at each other, where people are constantly worrying if we're going to die or not, someone's going to push a button, people are practicing duck and cover. What wiped that out, what ended the Cold War, was two people communicating. He said what broke it all down is I knew Americans were beasts and you knew we were horrible. He said, but Ronald Reagan and I developed a relationship. I tried to dig. I said, when did it happen? He said, well, at our first meeting in Geneva. And I said, well, what really did that? What was the first trigger of trust? He said, well, we were both on our side of the fence, arguing for our side. And at one point, he said, Ronald Reagan reached out to me and he said, listen, this is not working. Let me start fresh. My name is Ron. And he said, he reached out to shake my hand and said, may I call you Mikhail? And when he told me the story, he had this huge grin on his face. And I began to listen for 4 hours to all the tools that basically you're going to learn on this tape about quality communication and how it changes our lives, our businesses, our relationships, and literally how it changes the world. I'll give you one final example. Now all I'm trying to do is not to impress you, but to impress upon you that if you'll follow through and do this, some miracles can happen. And I'm giving you some famous names because hopefully that'll grab your attention and you'll think this is real. I tell you about John Smith, you might not listen. But I'll give you one more. Michael Crichton, the writer. I was speaking with him earlier this week as well, and he said, I want to tell you, one late night I was frustrated. People have been calling me saying, how's it going? Which he said really means, where's our work? Where's the screenplay? And he said, I just didn't have any momentum. And he said, I watched this show and I thought, what the heck, I'll try this. And he got the personal power tapes, he said, and he listened. He said, I did the whole thing, all the way through. And he said, I knew that was important. I got this brand new momentum and this new passion, this new energy. And he said, as a result of that, he said, I started writing again. And everybody said my idea was stupid, that it had been done before, it was a waste of time. He said, but I got the thing done. And in the goal-setting workshop you're about to do in a few minutes, he said, I designed what I was going to get out of that, even how much money I'd earn off this particular screenplay. And he said, I wrote down a number that was so unrealistic. It was a number that I'd never gotten before. And he said, you know what? I sold it for exactly the amount I said that I wanted. He said, so I really owe you some thanks. I said, well, what screenplay was it? What book was it? He said, Jurassic Park, the best-selling movie of all time. He said, I guess I owe you a little thanks. I said, well, thanks, Michael. The point is, this process you're going to do is simple. I'm not going to try and pump you up. I'm going to try and give you little pieces, but it's up to you to follow through. So will you do that? Please do. Don't sit passively. Take some major action. And again, know that we're just going to give you pieces of things. At the end, we'll wrap up together. Make sure, though, that you follow through on the 30-day tapes, because this is your bonus. Those tapes are the basis of this change. And I hope as a result of these changes, you'll want to take yourself to a brand new level. So let's begin. Let's go to our first venue, and let's find out what are some of the tools that can truly change our lives. Okay, good morning. Wow, good morning. Another day, a lousy day in paradise, right? Today, we're going to do something that I'm incredibly excited about. All the things we've done up until now, I know you've all felt huge transformation from. But today, when I first started thinking about it, I thought, this material is so important, but maybe I'll do just part of it because it can get digital. And also, we have joining us by videotape a brand new set of people who will join the 25 million people that have already been exposed to personal power. We've created Personal Power 2 now, the driving force. And in it, we're not just focused on how to achieve your goals, because as many of you know, you've become extremely successful. That's how you got here to be with me in Fiji, how you could afford to be here, both time and money-wise. But you've also learned by your own experience that that's not enough. You got to be fulfilled. So what I want to do today is show you some tools beyond what we've done here in terms of how to really be fulfilled in your values and your goals and your life, but really how to manage your life. Because how many of you found that as you become more successful, sometimes also you've gotten more stressed? Let me see your hands. Say, ah. And I can tell you that all of a sudden when I got 9 companies and 4 children and I want to write books and do television programs and now these United Artists Theaters that we do these seminars in all these cities simultaneously and come here and do programs in Fiji, all that simultaneously, while it's an incredible benefit, incredible reward, even having multiple homes, a real big problem to have, right, to complain about. But all those things make a demand on your time and on your energy, on your mental focus, and pretty soon, sometimes success starts feeling stressful. And you start achieving your goals and say, is this all there is? Why am I working so hard, It's like some people come here to Fiji and somebody says to them, why are you working so hard? The Fijians will invariably ask people this. The guy says, well, I'm working hard because I want to make several $1 million so I can come here and lie on the beach. And the Fijian says, well, I lie on the beach here all the time. I don't have any millions of dollars, right? And when they have what they would call a quality of life, right? Well, so the person's, so caught up in making a living, they aren't designing their life. I can promise you the impact will thrill you. By the way, let me tell you the other side, too. There's always 2 reasons to do things. One reason is for what you'll get. The other reason is for what you can avoid. Everything we do is to avoid what? Pain and to gain some pleasure, the combination of the 2. So I can tell you that if you look around just in my country, and I know we've got about 7 different countries represented here, and people watching will be from countries all over the world. But in my country alone, to give you an idea, 1 out of every 2 couples who get married end up in a what? Think about that. 1 out of 2. Was it always that way? No. What's happened is we were told that in the future, when we had all this technology and all this information, what it would do is it make our lives easier. We'd have more free time. How far has that worked? Not very. For most people, they're working harder. They're more stressed today, even though they're living in the information age when everything's supposed to be so much easier. There's something that's shifting there, and it's because we're not managing our resources effectively enough. And that's what we want to change in this process. So part of what we're going to do here is take a look at what the cost is also if you don't do it and what you can gain. We in our country, to give you an idea, in America also have a situation we got 60 to 70% of the people who are overweight, depending on whose poll you read. Now, how is that possible? Only one way, not managing the resources of your emotional state, of the way you eat food, of the way you move, and it costs you the quality of your life. We have 15 million people, I should say, that every year in the United States are diagnosed as clinically depressed. 15 million. Now, how could that be? Not managing the resources of your mind, your body, so you really feel good day to day. You can feel good day to day, you certainly have, but you've learned tools to do that on how to manage your state. You got a situation in America where you have 5% of the world's population in the United States. We consume 50% of the world's cocaine. Think about that. All this says to me is one big giant frame. People don't know how to manage their resources. They don't know how to manage their state. They're living in a state of immense stress. This session is going to show you how to eliminate the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of unnecessary stress in your life and put a heck of a lot more pleasure than you ever thought of before. But I think before we start, maybe what would be nice to do, since we have these people joining us by video, is let's give them a big welcome from everyone here in Fiji, from, I guess, 7 different countries. Give them a big hand here. Let's welcome them here with us. Oh, give them a big welcome. Crank them up here. So, now, for these people watching the video, or the individuals watching the video, they're probably thinking, this group is crazy. They're all hyped up. They're all motivated. What is this? They may just be watching this video for the first time. So I know most of you got here because some time ago, some of you years ago, some of you months ago, you were up real late one night. You bought a set of tapes called Personal Power, and they've had a big impact on your life. That's why you came here to Fiji, to expand it to another level and became part of Master University. If you were trying to tell a friend what this has meant to you, somebody who's like, oh, will this really work? I just got started. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. It might help somebody as they're listening to think, yeah, I'm going to listen a little bit closer if I know it really works. Who here would share with them just a few seconds of what it's meant to your life? Back here, why don't you go all the way back in the corner? Yes. Donna. Want to hand her this microphone, please? Give her a hand, it's Donna.
Well, I'm Donna Ringo. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm here with my husband, Bill, which I would have never imagined in a million years that this would have ever happened. So I want to thank you, Tony, but it all started by thinking I had everything I had ever wanted. We had always done dreams. We'd always done goals, written them down. I had a business that I had started and grew from a one-woman office to a 15 employees and sold it for over $1 million. And I thought I had everything I ever wanted, and I woke up one night with nightmares crying because I was so unhappy. Just because you think you get what you want, it may not be what you really need and what you're destined to do. And I went out and watched the television. I was clicking through and I ordered the tapes. And the greatest thing I ever did was listen to those tapes for every single day. I didn't miss a day. I broke appointments so I could listen to Tony's tapes. And it has changed my life completely. I was always happy. Everybody liked me, I thought, or whatever, but I didn't connect totally with people. And I have lost 54 pounds. I have about 50 to go. I have about 50 more to go, but those are going to come off too. I've made some incredible friends that I just dearly love. And we've started another business. I got out of that other deal. It was I'd get the money over 5 years if I stayed and helped manage, and I just said, the money's not important, and I left a lot of money on the table and started another business, and we're making more money with 3 people than we did with 15, which I like. And,
life management there, boy.
Absolutely. And not only in the process have we always made a lot of money, but we never made it stick. And last year we invested over $50,000 thanks to Tony's techniques. So, and our relationship was always great, but I have to tell you, this week it's gone to a new level. Thank you.
Thank you.
It all started with a taste. Thank you, Tony.
I noticed Bill took a bow when you said that. You know, it's easy sometimes, you know, when you're around something so much, take a little bit of it for granted, especially yourself, how much progress you've made. It's kind of like your children, you know. People come to me and say, boy, Josh has sure grown. I go, yeah, he sure has, sort of, you know. But now that my son's in Switzerland going to school, he comes back 3 months later, he's a giant, you know, because I have some contrast. I'm not around it as it's growing incrementally. I get to see the full impact. So you might want to think about a little bit today, and those of you on tape, how far have you really come? Even though you may have some challenges in your life, how far have you come? And most of you are doing so much better than you give yourself credit for, and most of you here are starting to give yourself a bit more credit, I notice, because you're smiling a lot more. Now, so today is life management systems. Question, what does everybody want? If we're going to manage things, we've got to manage them to get a result. So what does everybody want? Tell me. They want peace. What do they want? Yes. Balance. Yes. A fulfilling journey. I would say that what most people want, if you listen to people in the 60s, they'd say to change the world. What was it in the 70s? To take care of me, right? This is if you believe the media anyway. The media that said the 70s was the me generation. Everybody was into the narcissistic approach. In the 80s, what was it supposed to be, if you believe the generalization? Money, right? It got to become successful. And in the 90s, the new catchword is quality of life. But no one seems to be able to define it. Quality of life. Well, I have more free time. Well, how many of you in this room, and I'm sure you must know people, if not yourself, have had free time and not been happy? Anybody had that experience? So sometimes what happens is people achieve their goals, as she just got done saying, achieve your goals and you're still not fulfilled, you're still not happy. So if that happens, you don't have a quality of life. You know, everybody has the illusion that someday when I have more money, someday when I have more time, someday when I have a better home, someday when my family is finally grown up, my kids make it out of school, some days when I get my kids into school, someday when this happens, then I'll have a quality life. But quality life only comes from one thing, fulfillment. And those of you watching here a few days ago, if you were on tape 5, you listened to the goal-setting workshop. We all did a goal-setting workshop yesterday intensely. By the way, was that valuable for you? Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Okay? So goals are one thing, though, but goals are a vehicle towards getting yourself to meet these 6 human needs that we talked about on tape number 7. This whole idea, the 6 human needs, and how to make sure that whatever you're doing, you don't just do something that makes you feel good for the moment. You do something that makes you feel fulfilled long term. So if you and I are going to really have an extraordinary quality of life, how would we measure that? Would it be by cars, homes, a certain amount of financial success, maybe doing well in your career? I have to tell you, I've had the privilege now of being with people from about 43 nations of the world. And throughout that time, I've worked with the most, quote, successful people in the world and those that are most challenged. And what I find is the common denominator of success or failure ultimately is fulfillment. There are a lot of people out there that have everything on their side, and they're frustrated. And there are a lot of people that have every challenge you can imagine. They're excited about the passion of their life, trying to figure out how to make it work. I think ultimately a quality life is a life where you experience the emotions that you want on a regular basis. You know, I had the privilege of meeting Sir John Templeton and talking with him and interviewing him. And this is a gentleman who's made an amazing difference in the world. He's also been very successful in business. He's a billionaire, probably one of the most successful investors for the last 50 years around the world. And when you ask Sir John, what does it take to be, quote, wealthy? John turned to me and said, Tony, it takes one thing, gratitude. I said, that's interesting. He said, yeah, because it doesn't matter how much money you have in your life or anything else. If you're not grateful, you're not rich. I think that's really true way beyond the money, right? It's about all the areas of our life. So ultimately, what I really hope that Personal Power will do for you by your taking advantage of these tools is show you how to live in a place where you feel the joy, the excitement, the passion, the love, the connection, all the emotions that you really want in life, and spend a lot less time in that frustration or that overwhelm or resentment or anger or anything else that used to dominate maybe your life or people that you care about. Because think about it. If we don't manage the ultimate resource of our emotion, where does our life go? We can be brilliant. We can have great ideas, great desires, but we're not going to follow through. We're not going to go start a new business unless we can generate the emotion that gives us drive. We're certainly not going to be in a position where we stay close to the people around us. Have you ever, for example, been in a frustrated state of mind and then snapped at one of your children, had nothing to do with them whatsoever? Felt bad about it maybe afterwards? Or maybe you've been in a place where you misinterpreted someone's intent. You thought they had some secondary approach or gain of doing something with you, and they just really cared. But you're in such an angry state, you kind of filtered it wrong. Well, I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've been guilty of both those things in the past. And I don't want to be guilty of it in the future. And there's a way to create change. Now, I'm assuming, first of all, that you already know two of those ways because you've already done those personal power tapes, right? You're not supposed to be watching this video unless you first do those tapes. But just in case you didn't, I'll give you a little review. 2 skills that immediately change the quality of our life by changing our emotions. And by the way, out of our emotions come all of our behaviors. If you're on a roll, if you're in a peak state, if you're feeling passionate, you will follow through. On the other hand, if you're feeling passive and quiet and tired, you're not going to follow through. So the ability to change your state in a moment is the secret to not only peak performance, but a quality life. So how do we do that when we're constantly in a world where we're being interrupted? Like, you may hear some airplanes here. You might have to bear in mind with me. We have to both manage our states here. But the way you do it is 2 ways. And by the way, I'll show you these 2 ways real quick, remind you. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take you to Hawaii, and I'm going to have you sit in on one of my seminars, and I'm going to teach you a skill that'll show you how to immediately increase your drive to do certain things. For example, there's some things you know you need to do, but you have a hard time getting yourself to follow through. Or maybe there's some things that you want to do too much. Like you want to eat that pizza, or you want to have that chocolate, you want to do something that's kind of destructive, and you need to lower the amount of drive, lower the urge to follow through. I'm going to teach you a really valuable urge management tool that's so simple you can use it immediately. But first, let's do a quick recap, okay? Number 1, whether or not we're happy or not, the way we feel determines the way we behave. So for example, can you remember a time in your life when you're really on a roll, where things were just flowing, where it's like it was effortless, where it's just like you didn't even have to think about it, you just thought afterwards, how the heck did I do that? I'm sure you have. Have you also had times in your life, though, when you couldn't remember your own home telephone number, or how to spell the word the, where it felt like you could do nothing right? And what's the difference in performance? You're the same person, you have the same ability or skill, but in one situation you perform brilliantly, the other one kind of brutally. The difference in people's behavior is not their ability in most cases. It's the state that your mind and body is in at that moment in time. So how do we change our state if we're feeling frustrated or we're feeling depressed? Well, first of all, we have to learn and pay attention to what we naturally do when we're in a peak state versus what we naturally do when we're in an unhappy state. And by the way, you can use this to change performance immediately. I've done it with top athletes. Some of you saw in the infomercial Andre Agassi. And a whole series of athletes I've done this with where I'll help them discover when they're at their best, they just flow. They don't think about how am I going to hit that ball. I asked Andre when I first met him, I said, listen, have you ever hit a tennis ball perfectly? And he said, well, of course. I said, well, then stop trying to figure out how to change your swing, and let's get you back in that same state of mind where you naturally do this. Let's find out what the triggers were. And the first place we looked is step number 1. To change your emotion, you must change the way you use what we call your physiology. It's a big word, but physiology just means the way you move, the way you breathe, the way you use your facial expression. I got some sun here. I'm squinting. It changes my state. But the way you move affects everything. So, for example, if a person's feeling depressed, do they take on a certain physiology, a certain posture, a certain breathing pattern? I mean, think about it honestly. What's the posture of somebody who's depressed? Where are their shoulders? Come on, tell me the answer. I want you to think of it yourself before I say it. Good. Shoulders are down. Where's their head? Of course, down. What's their breathing like? Full or shallow? Of course, shallow. Facial expression, is it up and tight or slack. We both know it's slack. Now, how come you knew this before I said it? Because you've practiced this stuff before, haven't you? We've all been in that place where we're depressed and we're down. Now, what's interesting is, how do we treat that? What do we do with that? Well, what most people will do is they go take a drug. Or if people are really feeling down in life, they'll go drink some alcohol or maybe smoke a cigarette. Some people do something positive like exercise, which gets you to engage your body in a strong way, which, by the way, immediately changes your state. So what we might do is just try something simple. Might try just breathing differently. Might try standing up differently. For example, try it with something simple. Right now in your chair, one of the challenges I have as you're sitting watching Fiji and some of this material we're sharing is you're not in a seminar. In a seminar, I help you to keep yourself in a peak state. Because the state of mind you're in determines how much emotion you're feeling, and the emotion attached to the information is what gets you to follow through. So right now you're kind of passive. So right now, do me a favor and do you one too. Try this. If you were feeling kind of tired and bored right now, how would you be sitting? Hopefully not how you are right now listening to me. But how would you be sitting if you're bored and tired? Just try it. Come on, it's easy. Bored and tired. What happens to your shoulders? What happens to your body? What happens to your breathing? Bored and tired. A little frustration, that bored, tired, and frustrated. Right? Get that look on your face. Kind of right now, come on, try it. Just see what it's like in your body. See if there's actually a posture that goes with that emotion, a way of breathing, a facial expression. I think you know where it is. And if you went there real quick, that might be a sign you might want to change for the future. Now, in that state of frustration, imagine trying to design your life, trying to change your life. It's not going to happen. So now try this. Sit up in your chair right now. Come on. No one's watching. It's just you in this videotape with me. Come on. Sit up in your chair. Come on, sit up tall. Sit up like you'd be if you were really feeling unstoppable right now. Has there been a time in your life when you felt like you were on a roll? Like, man, nothing you tried would be stopped, that you'd find a way to turn it around? Sit up in your chair that way. Breathe the way you'd be breathing if right now you felt really good. Put the kind of smile on your face like you feel really excited. Now, I know this sounds third grade. Oh, yeah, what a pump up. Sit up, and that's going to really change my life. But the truth is, if you look at your life and you were to write down all the emotions you experienced in the week, both good and bad, each of those emotions has tied to it a certain way of using your body. And if you keep using your body that way over and over again, you'll keep feeling that way. So make yourself breathe and feel good. Sit up like you are ready to make something happen right now. If you're in a state of certainty you were going to achieve what you wanted, how would you be sitting up? What would be the look on your face if you were totally determined right now? Make a little gesture. What kind of gesture would you make if you felt determined right now? Come on, just try it. If you make that gesture really strong like you mean it, how does it feel? Just kind of feel what that feels like in your body. In this state of mind, are you likely to do things differently than when you're in that passive state? You and I both know the answer to that question. But the secret is to train yourself to stay in this state so it becomes natural. It's kind of like, how do you build a muscle? I want to build a strong bicep. I may lift weights. And when I lift weights, I don't just exercise. If I want this muscle to grow, I got to condition it by pushing beyond what I'm comfortable with. So if you're just watching me right now and going, who is this idiot telling me to do all this stuff? It's okay, but it won't give you a change. So you got to really exercise it, and you got to do something you're not comfortable with. And if I'm doing 10 curls with a weight, which one of those 10 do you think I want to do the least? Obviously number 10. Which one will give me the most growth? Number 11. Right? When you push beyond your comfort zone, that's when you create a change for yourself. So now, what we're hearing in the background is another airplane. This tends to change our state because it affects state number 2, which I'll wait for it to go by for. The second thing that affects our state is what we focus on. What you and I focus on, moment to moment, radically changes the way we feel. So as that thing goes by, if you focus on the sound of the plane, which would be the natural thing to do, it's going to change your state. But I'll give you a better example. If you're in a position where you want to condition yourself to feel good, you got to control what you consistently focus on and how you consistently use your body. So for example, if you wanted to feel bad right now, I bet you could pull it off. Do you have any memories from your past, some horrible memory that if you thought about it in detail and really focused on it, you'd feel really lousy all over again? You got an experience like that? Some people say, heck, I got zillions of them. I got a menu of experiences. Other people tell me, why go back to my past? My present is crappy enough. Some people are not satisfied with that. They think of things that haven't even happened yet, and they focus on them. Horrible things that haven't even occurred and feel bad about them in advance. You don't want to fall into that trap. So both of these become habits, by the way. People come to me all the time and they say, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, Mr. Robbins. I just feel down all the time. Why do you think I feel so down? Well, part of it is look at their body. Part of it is what do they constantly focus on, how things haven't worked out, how they can't turn it around, and their body's in a lousy place. It's pretty obvious. Other people say, I don't know what it is. I feel so up all the time. Why do you think it is I feel so up all the time? And it's pretty obvious. But we forget the fundamentals, don't we? We turn, most of us, we don't like the way we feel, to alcohol again, or cigarettes, or smoking, or sleeping, or we go watch TV to change our focus. to take us off what we're focusing on that makes us feel bad and make us focus on something else that maybe feels okay for the moment. Or you go shopping, or you change the way you're moving, you feel pretty good, and you focus on something else. But none of those give you a long-term benefit. In fact, some of them have some negative side effects. So would it be nice to be able to change your state that fast, just by a radical change in the way you use your body, or by a quick change in focus? And by the way, people come to me all the time and say, I don't know what it is, Mr. Robbins, but